Hey guys, what's going on? This is Kevin Muller from Cinephellas. I'm the movie guy, and I'm here to talk to you about my personal least favorite, or I should say, worst films of 2021. Now, I know I'm a little late on this. Unfortunately, we at the site, we're not professional critics. As I've said many times before, it's taken me 3 months into the new year to finish everything, and I still haven't finished a lot of it, but enough to know what I disliked and I liked, which will be in another video from this past year, 2021. Now, without further ado, here we go. Number 10, we got Space Jam. All right. Now, if you've never listened to me or read my stuff, number 10 is usually reserved for a film that I didn't really hate, but I had problems with. And Space Jam is one that I had a lot of problems with. 96 is the first one that came out. Michael Jordan was in it. It was a big thing. It was based on the commercials for Nike. Now we have LeBron James doing it, very famous basketball star. He's not a bad lead. I read a lot of stuff that people say that he's terrible. I don't really think he's terrible. If you've seen Judd Apatow's Trainwreck, where he plays himself, he is pretty funny. He keeps up with Hater. He has a couple of good one-liners, one specifically about Downton Abbey. When he interacts with the tunes, he's not bad, but it's just this thing is just so overly produced. It's just tries so hard. It's all over the place. It doesn't even take place in space. I mean, what kind of bullshit is that? Now, number 9. 9 is Genre in the Hole. You probably never even heard of it. I'm into film. I follow a lot of stuff, and I try to see the little stuff because it could win stuff like major awards. Look at Coda. Coda came out of nowhere. Coda started as this little film at a festival, I think it was Sundance earlier in 2021, and it was bought and won Best Picture. We're always made fun of film critics and film lovers about loving the small stuff, especially when Marvel people say, or any big genre film like that says like, oh, whatever, you're just looking out for this, you're looking out for too many like small details. Who cares? Just have fun with it. Not everything has to be a film festival or an Oscar winner. Well, those movies aren't really that good sometimes too. First of all, John the Hole, the lead character John, he is one of the most unpleasant people I've ever watched in film. And as I said before, because this movie was in my March of 2021 roundup, you can make a bad character who is morally bankrupt, but have him be interesting. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to recommend it again. Red Rocket with Simon Rex, great movie. Simon Rex is a scumbag in that movie, as I said. But he's charming. John is not charming. John just mopes around the entire movie, and the movie is trying to be controversial. And for you guys who don't know, it's about a kid who traps his family, who is dysfunctional, in a bunker, and they hang out there, and he doesn't really do anything. He doesn't do anything. He's stagnant. The movie's stagnant. It's very uninteresting. It's boring. It's pseudo-intellectual hogwash that, as I said to Logan and the guys and other people I talked about film, it has its head up its ass. Now, Antlers is a movie that's my number 8 pick that is made by Scott Cooper, who's a really talented filmmaker. He did Hostiles and Crazy Heart. He knows what he's doing. Here he tries doing a horror movie using the Wendigo folklore from the Northwestern United States. The blood and the gore is great. If you're here for the blood and gore, have a great time. If shitty character development and overall bleakness, uninteresting screenwriting, if that doesn't bother you, go ahead. Have a great time watching people getting killed in gruesome ways. Number 7, Old. Now, M. Night Shyamalan is a very, very interesting person because there are times when he puts out stuff that is great. Split from 2017 was such a sucker punch because it was the sequel to Unbreakable, which we have been waiting for 17 years. But before that, it was a great movie where James McAvoy gave a great performance. I am still upset that he didn't get any awards recognition for it because he was great as the Beast. He handled those personalities fantastically, and it's a shame that he didn't get more notice from that film. Now with Old's a premise that you go to this beach, specifically the characters we follow, and you age dramatically within a few minutes. You could be 10 years old 1 minute, and then I forgot the time lapse rules, but And it's a cool premise. There is a couple of parts that are cool, but overall, it's Shaman has this bad tendency of getting out of hand with his ideas. He has a great base idea, and he grows it, and he just goes crazy with it. And after a while, it just gets stupid. And that's what this movie became as I started watching. Like, okay, enough. Oh no, he's gonna do this. It just became really stupid, and he started throwing left out of left field scenarios at us. And by the end of the movie, I'm like, why? Why did you destroy a good premise? Oh, bad one. All right. Now, number 6 is Red Notice. The Rock is all over Instagram. If you follow The Rock, he is an advertising machine. He can sell, let's see out here. He could sell this thing to be the coolest, this armpit deodorant to be the coolest thing ever. He's a good seller, and I give him credit. Unfortunately, Red Notice is everything that's wrong with action movies today. It's overproduced. It's stupid. It rips off from other movies. And I love Ryan Reynolds. I do. Ryan Reynolds is great, but he has to be controlled. You have to basically limit him to a certain amount of time because his shit gets old if there was no leash on it. And that's what happens here. He is just constantly for almost 2 hours making wise ass remarks. And I'm not going to lie, I laughed at some of them. There are a couple of good, but I'm like, enough. And it's just overall, it's not, it's big budget. Netflix spent a lot on this movie, and it was boring. I was bored by it. I just thought it was just very interesting. Now, number 5, for halfway there, is Tom and Jerry. These two characters deserve better than this misfire. I guarantee you talk to any animator, maybe not so much today, but back in the day, and they were influenced by Tom and Jerry. They're legends. For two characters who don't speak, they have a lasting legacy. And I think that's the problem with this movie. You can't make a movie based upon two characters who don't talk, because that means you have to basically build around it an interesting story and interesting characters. And unfortunately, this movie doesn't have any of that. I can't even tell you the story. That's how unmemorable it was. And we have acting, we have people who are good actors. Michael Pena's in it, and Chloe Moretz. Thank you. I just kicked it in my head. So we have two good actors. They're great actors, but they're giving nothing, and they give us nothing. And one more thing, Roger Rabbit is over 30 years old, and that movie still holds up. The animation in this movie, the way they mix our animated friends and the humans, it's terrible. You can tell that they're not really there. You can tell the actors are probably just looking at a tennis ball. Sorry, Tom and Jerry, but not a good film. Number 4 is Godzilla versus Kong. When this thing was rebooted in 2014 with Bryan Cranston and Gareth Edwards, I think, did the first one, it was interesting the way they approached it. And the characters were pretty good. They weren't life-changing, but I bought the human conflict. As these things move forward and forward, it just becomes less about making a good movie than it is just making a big spectacle. And maybe it's me, maybe I'm a little too harsh, but I expect a little more out of an action movie. Look at Independence Day, film from '96, great effects, revolutionary at the time, but those characters were all cool. They were all interesting. They were well done. There is nothing like that here. It's just like, okay, Godzilla and Kong not here. All right, how long do we have till they come back? And I'm just watching uninteresting characters, actors who obviously are there for the paycheck, just try to sell me something outside of what this movie is selling, and it fails badly. And hopefully, well, probably not, because this movie made a lot of money. It's just gonna keep doing this, and it's just, they'll probably be on the list whenever the next one comes out. Number 3 is Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is one of my favorite games. I'm a big gamer, and it is something that's been in my life since 1992, so I was 9 years old. It's 30 years somewhat. Yeah, it's 30. Yeah, it'll be 30 years this year that this game first released. I love the blood. I love the gore, the dismemberment, everything that makes Mortal Kombat great. It should have been in this movie. And the gore and the blood is, but everything else is horrible. Horrible. And, again, you're probably saying, whatever, it's a video game movie. No, that doesn't fly with me. For all the cheesiness of the 1995 version of the game, which didn't have the blood or the guts that this one has, the characters are great. Christopher Lambert is Raiden. He is so iconic that you can skin him in the new Mortal Kombat game along with the Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade. Safe to say, no one's going to remember the new characters. They're poorly written, uninteresting, terribly acted. Especially, I don't know why Hollywood executives don't take the silver plate of a story and characters and just say, okay, we're going to take this and we'll build a movie around it. First of all, the tournament, there's really no tournament in this movie. Second of all, they create this lame character. I forgot his name already, but he he's not in the lore. He's made for the movies and he's just terrible. He's cheesy. He's so cheesy, not in a good way. And the actor is not good who plays him. I'm sorry to say. We have to start somewhere, but he's not a good actor, and they're all miscast. They're all miscast, and it's boring and uninteresting. So hopefully the second one, which, because this thing, like Kong, was a hit. Specifically, Mortal Kombat was the most watched thing on HBO Max as far as like the movie slate they released all same day. So maybe the second one will give me more what I want, but movie made money, so fuck me, right? The Woman in the Window is number 2. This one held out for the worst thing I saw most of 2021 because it came out in March. You don't remember it. No one remembers it. I think Kristen Bell made a mockery parody version of this. It's called The Woman in the Window Next Door. I don't know. I'm screwing up the title, but I just want to say Amy Adams needs a new agent. She was also in Evan Hansen, which you probably are surprised that is not here. Personally, it was stupid, but I didn't hate it. I understand why people hate it. Ben Platt is too old, and it looked weird because they casted regular teenagers around him, and so it made him look even older, even though they did everything like shaving his face. And I heard rumors that they did a little CGI touch-ups to make him a little younger. Anyway, I'm not talking about that movie. I'm talking about this one. Amy Adams needs a new agent because she's a good actress. American Hustle, Vice, Arrival, which she was not nominated for an Academy Award for. She's just been in a little rut lately. It happens to some actresses. I have a very, very good feeling she'll come back and she'll win the Oscar that she should have won years ago. Anyway, she's here doing the naive, scared Amy Adams, and Amy Adams is good at that, but it's tired in this movie. And I can't believe like Joe Wright, who did Siriano later in 2021, which was pretty good. I liked it. The songs are okay, and he's done other stuff, Atonement and Hannah, which is a great movie you've never seen. It came out 10 years ago. He's clumsy here. He's clumsy trying to direct a thriller with brains. This movie has no brains. This movie has no thrills. This movie's terribly written, terribly directed, and it's made by really good people and has amazing cast. Check out the cast, because I'm not going to remember the names, and I've done that too many times in this video. Check out the cast. Check out the production team. This should have been an Oscar-nominated film, and it was supposed to be an Oscar-nominated film until they saw what they had, and they moved it from the fall of 2021 all the way back to March of 2021. And the reveal of the killer in this movie is ridiculous. It's funny. It's hilarious. It's not supposed to be any of that, but it is. The actor playing it, I don't know if it was Joe Wright giving him directions, but it's awful. It's so terribly awful. I was laughing when I shouldn't have been laughing, and he just shoots the scenery. So, Joe Wright's a great director, and he'll move on from this. Amy Adams, everyone here that's really good will move on from this. And now, number one movie that I hated. I hated this movie. I didn't dislike it. I didn't think it was bad. I hated this movie. Number 1 is Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City. Now, I'm a fan of the video games, but I'm also going to look at this as a film. As a film, it is cheap. It is shoddily directed. It just doesn't look like a movie. It looks like crap. It looks like a student film. I've seen Resident Evil fan films that have been better than this piece of shit. The story is just too big for the 99-minute runtime I think this has. Nothing is of value. Nothing makes any emotional impact. And these games have such good stories, and the characters are great. We're not as ignorant as we were back 20 years ago, was saying, "Oh, video games have no stories." No, some video games have great stories, and anyone on the site, Logan, anyone could tell you some games with fantastic stories. And again, we have an instance where the studio executives, instead of taking the story of Resident Evil 1, they took the story of Resident Evil 1 and 2 and compacted it. And what happens when you do that? You just take the juice and the emotional power of everything that's happening. It's just, there are some parts in this movie that look great. It's like, oh my God, I remember that from the game. And now I'm sitting on the big screen, but none of it means anything. None of it means anything. It's not properly set up. It's a big shit sandwich. It is. And it's worse than all these movies below it because it could have been amazing. It could have been great, but as a film, the acting is terrible. It is so bad. I never thought I would say I miss Paul W.S. Anderson's Mila Jovovich, but some of those movies blow this one out of the way. And you could say, oh, they weren't given a budget. Well, there are a lot of movies that are not given a budget that make it work. Horror movies in general. Horror movies are easy to make and are churned out normally because they're cheap. But the difference is you can find out who's a good director and who's a bad director about what they do with that money and how they can make that money sing. This movie had probably a little bigger budget than a standard low budget or a medium budget horror movie because of the name. And I'm sorry to say, everything in this movie is terrible. It sucks. It stinks. And, that's all I'm going to say about that. All right. So that is the worst films I had to sit through in 2021. In my next video, I will be talking about the best. So I won't be needing this anymore. As we say in this site, I'm Kevin Muller, and cheers.